provided in part by Cabbage, who has helped thousands of restaurants access the financing they need. Apply online for a line of credit of up to $250,000. Learn more at cabbage.com/foodable.
All right. Hi. Welcome to Feeding the Future podcast here at Foodable I.O. in Chicago 2018. So my name is Yareli Quintana, and today I have Melissa Gallagher from Freshii. And Melissa's experience, it's quite extensive. Melissa is now leading the way, building one of the biggest health and wellness brands in the world. And we also have Steve Shultz from Nektar Juice Bar. And Steve currently has, is it 100 restaurants?
A little over 100, about 110. So.
Wow, incredible. And then quickly building on 425 in 2020, right? This is what we're projecting.
Yes, we're putting about one a week right now, so that's good.
This is so exciting. Well, welcome both of you. Our topic today is diets driving trends of future restaurants. So let's dive right in. What is really happening in the marketplace today? What do you think? How do you think that diets are influencing our new restaurant trends? Let's start with you, Melissa.
Sure. Well, talking about my background, I've been with Subway prior to joining Freshii, so a long time ago. If you remember the Atkins diet, for example,
of course,
which took the world by storm. That was something that was brought to Subway as, at the time, the leader in health casual restaurants. So it's really interesting, some of these fads that can come and go, and I think even more now with the education that we're finding online and just the way that it's so readily available, there's so many different nutrition trends or fads that are really leading the way that people are viewing the way that they engage with our brands and food in general. So it's really, really interesting. It's fast, it's furious, it's exciting, it's scary.
Yes, absolutely. And it's no longer, when we used to think of the word diet, it was, losing weight, right? And now it's so segmented, right? We talk about Paleo, we talk about, as you mentioned, Atkins, which is kind of like an evolved version of it, if you will. And then we have ketos, and we have vegetarian and vegan on the opposite side of the spectrum. So what I'm noticing is that there's a lot of push for health and wellness in the industry, and I'm sure that's something that you're experiencing as well now that you're leading the way in the juice bar industry.
Yeah, no, and I think Melissa's right that there's been a seismic shift in the way people view food. I think that to the point of Atkins, or to the point that you just made about Paleo, there's a number of different fads within a fad right now. But I think the overarching theme is fundamental health and wellness, and whatever fits your particular desires or what you're trying to achieve. So I think that if you look at it, you could look at a 70-year-old today is probably in a lot better shape fundamentally than they were probably when they were 50. And so I think overall they look to us in the restaurants, or we look to them to try and fill that niche and see what we can do to achieve that. So I think that transparency, I think that freshness and health and the things people are putting in their system, I think, are much more important than they've ever been before. So.
Absolutely, and that drives to a great point. The role of the restaurant has dramatically changed. And what are you noticing now as the influence is really driving this, I guess, shift, what we would call it, this seismic shift in the industry? What is the heaviest influencer? Will it be the consumer at the end of the day?
I think it always is. I think it's always a consumer. I think if you look at the fad diets before, whether it be the master diet, master cleanse, or the Atkins or Paleo or whatever it may be, I think that I don't think there's any turning back now. I think that the overall, again, the shift to health and wellness and a conscientious diet isn't going to change, and so therefore it's our requirement really of almost any restaurant is to fill that need and try and stick within that box. I think that most restaurants need to be, a lot of times people try and be everything to everybody, and I don't think that's the goal for anybody that wants to be successful. So I think that you got to stay true to who you are. I do think they are looking for transparency. I think they are looking for various things. Everybody's looking for various fundamental things, less sugar and less processed ingredients and things like that.
And absolutely, transparency, I think, is one of the things that the consumer is constantly looking for, especially now, as you mentioned, Melissa, with so much information out there. And the consumer is a lot more savvy in their choices, and they have choices, ample choices. And when we're looking at things like transparency, and ingredient integrity is one of the things that you both stand by. This is something that is quite exciting, I think, in the industry currently. How much of it do you think is marketing? Just simple marketing at the end of the day.
Well, being the marketing expert over here, Melissa,
I'm looking at Melissa like...
she better have an answer here.
I mean, as VP of Marketing, certainly I think marketing plays an important role, but from Freshie's perspective, everything for us is nutrition-led. So we've got our nutritious name is on the front door of every one of our restaurants so that guests who come in are informed about the decisions that they're making, and whether you're someone who's looking for a low-calorie diet or a high-protein diet, or someone who is looking to cure a hangover, or
of course we need solutions for all of it.
For everything. Or, something, a pre-workout or post-workout snack. There's always a different reason why people are visiting our restaurants, and we want to make sure that we continue that information, and that it's not just marketing. They're not just led by a beautiful photo or something catchy on Instagram that they saw from their favorite celebrity, that it's an informed decision about what they're putting into their bodies.
Absolutely. Which is now also kind of all-encompassing this lifestyle-driven trend, right? Because it used to be, I go to a restaurant and I've got my meal, and then I'm leaving the restaurant and I'm happy. But now it's an entire holistic approach to it. So it might be influenced by a beautiful photo on Instagram, but it's become a lifestyle. How do you think that's going to change the landscape as we build new restaurant brands in the future?
I know for us, we realize that people who are taking a lunch break are just the same as the people who are traveling for business, or just the same as people who are going on a long road trip to the cottage. And we're finding ways to integrate into their lives every day. So, for example, we're now on Air Canada flights, making sure that there's healthy options there. We've just partnered up with Shell, a gas station in Canada, to do a pilot program to make healthier options accessible for everyone throughout their everyday journeys. So that's certainly how it's feeding into our mission, and how our mission has kind of evolved from where we were even a year or 2 years ago, prior to being able to offer our food in those ways.
I love that.
So, kind of like the traditional family, the traditional diet and eating patterns have changed a great deal. I mean, it used to be lunch, breakfast, dinner, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I think now people are looking for those smaller meals, snack throughout the day. So you're seeing different traffic counts, and you're seeing different needs depending on what they want to have, whether it be texture in the morning, whether it be a snack in the afternoon, whether it be wanting something to carry over for the evening. So I think that there's different requirements for a restaurant to understand, to achieve, in the sense of it's not what it used to be, that yes, people do fundamentally go for lunch, but they also go to, say, Freshii or Nektar, a place like that, for a meal replacement, or something a little bit lighter, but maybe they'll go a little bit more frequent to achieve different purposes. So I just don't think that's I think shifting how people are eating and structured. So
and there's always that question that is food making us sick? And I think with the education and making food affordable and accessible, and healthy options throughout the day, as you're saying, we get to answer that. Is food really making us sick? And if so, this is how both of your brands are showing up in the world. So what do you think about that? How do we answer that?
On the way over here, I was reading QSR, and we talked about the comps over at McDonald's. So I mean, there is still obviously a strong market for, for what they do. I think that the shift is more of an education base that usually, from my opinion, presses on both coasts. From the East Coast to the West, and then goes in between. And we've seen our volumes, very high and spike in California, and then slowly pick up as you get to the center of the country and things like that. So I think I think some of it will take some time. I think some of it, again, is education. I think some of it's cost. I mean, Freshii's talk about being affordable, which we're the same thing. You want to be accessible and affordable to anybody that desires that sort of lifestyle. And so the key, I think, is trying to educate and to get those folks that might be going to a I'll say Chipotle. I won't say Subway. To stop by a Freshii, stop by a Nektar every now and then, and hopefully that will influence their diet because they know how you feel after. I know if I go to a Freshii, I go to a Nektar, I fundamentally feel better. I feel lighter. I can achieve more. I'm mentally stronger, I think. And so I think that once people get a taste of that lifestyle, I think that's when the compounding effect takes place.
I think we still have a lot of work to do as well. I think both in the U.S. and Canada, there's now legislation around calorie counts being posted on menus, which we actually at Freshii, we took a stand against because we don't believe in one size fits all, and certainly, just judging your meal by its caloric value is not the only value that you should be making your meal decisions with. So I do think that there's still a lot of work to be done in truly educating the masses about what nutrition really is and how we can stop making ourselves sick. Because although I think there are steps that can be argued in the right direction about posting calories on menus, you might have someone who is less educated about nutrition, and now instead of coming to Freshii or Nektar for an 800-calorie highly nutrition dense meal, they might substitute that for a Big Mac because it could potentially have the same caloric value, which is just, as we know, just absolutely the wrong decision. So I think that there's still a long way for us to go to really educate the masses about it. But certainly that's, we're trying to make sure that our food is affordable so that the decision doesn't come down to just a caloric value and a price point.
Yeah, I think Melissa brings up a good point because people fundamentally don't understand the differences between, I could put an apple here and a Snickers, and fundamentally they've got the same sugar count. So all of a sudden they look at the sugar, they look at the carbs, they look at whatever, and say, I'm not going to have apples. I'm like, but there's a difference in something processed and unprocessed, and the nutrition dense, and what you're trying to achieve and what's it going to do for you. So I think that there is a big education component because fundamentally one size doesn't fit all, and they may look at one of her juices or my juices and say, oh my gosh, look at all that sugar, no way. But again, they're not understanding what they're really getting, what the benefits they're getting out of it. So whether it be the fiber, whether it be the whatever it may be. So
And this brings me right back to the role of the restaurant in that case. And the restaurant, does it carry some sense of responsibility to also educate the consumer? Do you feel like that's definitely a part of the new, I would say, formula?
It's interesting. You're talking about marketing before, and marketing certainly has a role, and we put a high emphasis on that. But I think that if you look at overall, the role of marketing really and where the budget ought to go, it is the store level employee. If you've got the team members understanding, if you market to them and understand and educate them, they educate the consumer. That's where the dividends are going to pay off. I could put an ad on the Super Bowl and flood the stores, but if the kids at the stores don't understand, or the restaurants don't understand what we're trying to achieve, it's not going to serve its purpose. On the other hand, if we can go ahead and spend that time and money educating our staff, that will pay the dividends, I think. So.
When it comes to consumer brands, we have a wonderful opportunity inside the four walls of a restaurant to educate our guests on nutritional value. And you think about marketing, I think of the Snickers ads, which are amazing. They're beautifully done. But then when I think of, the nutritionist side of it, it's so scary to think that people are making meal decisions based on that kind of campaign, which is, from a marketing and advertising perspective, it's flawless. But from a nutritionist perspective, it's terrifying. So we've got such a great opportunity to, once we have people inside of our restaurants, through great marketing campaigns, to then educate them on the decisions that we're making. And we can do that with simple things like vegan hacks on each one of our menu items, or just markers on how to make something gluten-free or vegetarian-friendly or dairy-free.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to close up with this. Do you think that there will be a new standard American diet?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I really hope so.
You would think so. I mean, that pyramid's been around for a long time, and and I think that they will one of these days. I think that they have to.
They have to.
I think they have to.
We'll make sure of it.
Yes. I'm holding you to it. You're definitely driving trend and setting the standard pretty high here. So thank you so much for being here and spending some time with me.
Thanks for having us.
Make sure and check out the rest of the show and our other Foodable shows on Amazon, on Foodable TV. foodivaLTV.com. We're also on Foodable Plus, and you can find us on iTunes. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.